Hello everybody, I'm Philip J. Watt and this is the Redesigning Society series. Now this week's interview is with Michael Tellinger. If you don't know who Michael is, he created the Ubuntu and contributionism social and political movement. So we've got a really good discussion coming up. But before we get into it, I just want to quickly mention we shot this video around 2 months ago. Initially it really was meant to be a meet and greet, but as the conversation evolved, it really did capture the essence and some of the rationale methodology around what he was trying to achieve. So we decided to use that video anyway, and that's why it may be a little bit disjointed here and there. I also wanted to contextualize a little bit as to why we need to move to a new social system, because that is exactly what Ubuntu aims to achieve. The social system we work under at the moment is a capitalistic structure, which is essentially an economy of scarcity. Now, what that means is that we're all fighting for our right to survive. We all need to fight just to get our basic needs, our basic resources met, to one day potentially even thrive. Now, that system guarantees winners and losers. Socioeconomic disadvantage, such as intergenerational poverty, violence, unemployment, homelessness, a whole array of features of living that really aren't supplied for the whole of humanity, the whole of the people. It's also generated a lot of problematic ego states, huge levels of corruption, high levels of greed, selfishness, competition, a value system based on image and materialism, like material items. It really has birthed a system for humanity that doesn't meet the needs, the health and happiness needs that we really require to be functional and content people in life. There is a huge lack of inner peace, of basic contentment born from this system. And that's because of the individualistic ideologies, the consumerist machine, the materialistic structure of it. We're worshipping the wrong things in life through that system. It's also created a lot of crony capitalism, socialism from the rich. For the rich, the monetary policies are designed to maintain the elite power structures. There is a whole gamut of problems that have generated from this system. Now we know we're going into another global economic crisis. You won't hear this in the mainstream media, or it's slowly starting to come out now because it's basically undeniable. But the alternative economists have been screaming this for months, but they've shown over the last 7 years since the 2008 crisis that it hasn't been resolved. Quantitative easing has propped up the Wall Street economy. So stocks and real estate and the bonds and this huge derivatives problems. We're in a massive global money bubble, private debt bubble, government spending is crazy. The whole economic system has inherent flaws that are causing so much suffering for humanity. So it's looking very clear that we're in another global financial crisis right now. And we'll see how that plays out in the next few months, year or two. These things aren't fixed overnight and they don't manifest overnight. So we'll see the actual impact on society because we've already got high levels of unemployment. If you look at the unofficial figures, the shadow stats of unemployment in the US and elsewhere, you'll know it's a lot higher than 6-7%. You'll know that the labour force participation rate has really decreased. You know that there's a huge problem, increase, amplification of homelessness, poverty, people on food subsidies. They work and can't even afford their food. The Main Street economy has not recovered from the 2008 crisis, and we're not in a position right now to go through another one. But that's what's going to happen. It's inevitable for all these bubbles to burst. And so let's look at this as an opportunity. It's an opportunity to apply some really short-term solutions, such as what Steve Keen offers in his debt deflation model. Instead of quantitative easing for the banking and finance sector, which is a fraudulent fraudulent machine that realistically the US and the UK especially should have jailed so many of them like they did in Iceland to take back the control of this amazing gambling operation that they've got going right before our very eyes. And give that money to the people. So a modern debt jubilee, quantitative easing for the people, inject in the private bank accounts, reduce private debt, allow more money, liquidity in the system, in the economy, to keep it running, to stimulate that economy when this crisis hits. Now, that is one short-term solution. There's others like modern monetary theory. Bill Mitchell and an array of economists. He's from University of Newcastle, but there's many economists who suggest that because we operate under a fiat-based monetary system, that we can just take back our control to manage and regulate our central banks, create our own money. The whole central banking private system is private. It's owned by a consortium of banking families, has been for many, many generations. And so as an independent sovereign nation, every country in the world, except for those in the EU, because they've got the one central bank, but we as independent nations, we can take back the power to create our own money. That way we're not paying interest to private banking families, such as tax, and direct that money where it's needed most. So give people a living wage, generate enough employment in the public sector and transfer it back to the private sector when it rebounds. Basically provide the services that society needs through funding it, through creating that money, directing it to that area and generating jobs and servicing society. And that's a pretty simple and short-term solution to this whole mess, this capitalistic mess, this ideological mess, all that suffering and the problems that are born from that. It doesn't work. Trickle-down economics doesn't work. All these problematic states, including the corruption, the manipulation, the gambling, all of that can be eliminated into the long term. How do we do that? We move to an economy of abundance. Now that's what Michael Tellinger is offering through his Ubuntu and contributionism philosophy or paradigm. What it essentially means is that people contribute to as a collective to the economy. We create all our needs, our basic and our luxurious needs. Everybody gets it for free. We remove the monetary system and we free up our time to invoke our passion and creativity, as well as take care of the environment, of course, as well. We need to incorporate a lot of these renewable energy technologies. We need to leave no more footprint on the earth. Some scientists are saying we're in the sixth greatest extinction of all time right now. We need to take the environmental mess very, very seriously. And he captures the philosophy of oneness, that this whole new shift, this philosophical shift that we're going through, understood rationally through quantum physics, parapsychology, psychology, that mind consciousness plays a fundamental and co-creating role in manifesting reality. Everything is interconnected through this grid, this oneness of consciousness, of awareness, of mind. That is the philosophical shift we're going through. We're understanding it not just intuitively, but now rationally through the sciences. It's been around. It's ancient wisdom that's been incorporated in many tribal cultures and even religions and many spiritual disciplines over the years. It's just now been embraced on a planetary scale because there's a rationale behind it. So understanding that we're all one and the same thing is really important to taking better care of each other and the environment. There's a couple of other models as well that I encourage you to research, to really wrap your head around moving from an economy of scarcity to an economy of abundance. This is the ideal. This is the intelligent, logical, ethical, and basic, beautiful way to move forward. The resource-based economy, Jacques Fresco's work with the Venus Project, Peter Joseph's work with the Zeitgeist movement, all three of those models are synonymous in many ways. But Michael Tellinger's work has got a political arm. He's trying to change the system from within. There are political Ubuntu parties in over 200 countries all around the world. So when we decide how we want to engage in the transition to a new social system, because this needs to enter into mainstream awareness, The mainstream mentality needs to start discussing this stuff. You won't find it, or you'll find it maybe a touch, but very little in the mainstream channels. You have to go to alternative media to figure this stuff out, because mainstream media is corporate, banking owned, we know that, and they have an agenda to maintain the status quo. They don't want revolution, they don't want change, such as that, but the people do. The people, the awakening community do. More and more people are waking up and contributing to different models, different ideologies, but really embracing their own way to help this transition occur. One is permaculture, such a simple solution for eliminating environmental mess, caring for the community, undertaking that philosophical shift to understand the interdependence that we have with life, with nature, with reality, and providing all our resources in a renewable, ethical fashion. So permaculture is something that I really recommend as well. But this video isn't about permaculture. It's not about Jacques Fresco or Peter Josephs for the Zeitgeist Movement or the Venice Project. I really wanted to mention it because I wanted to really capture the scope of this economy of abundance, this transition to a new social system that we desperately need, and which we can take as an opportunity and to really amplify its discussion and really get people involved in it more and more once we feel the impacts of this new economic crisis that we're about to enter into. The other alternative is that they pull a very magical rabbit out of the hat. So who knows? We'll be really impressed if they do, but it seems that we're in a position right now where there is no going back. We have to deal with the consequences of these fraudulent monetary policies, of these fraudulent monetary systems, of these corrupt banking and finance sectors. There's going to be a consequence on society. Let's hope that we can take this as an opportunity to start looking seriously, not just from the bottom up, but from the top down to our politicians, our community leaders. If they are serious about taking care of the people who they're meant to represent, if they are genuine in their care, their love for their community, for the people, then they will step out of that box, this box that has caused so much suffering for so many. They will step out of it and realize that there are alternative ways forward. There are solutions already designed, not just the short-term economic solutions that we've got, modern monetary theory, debt deflation, but also the longer ones as well, because we are an intelligent, enlightened, caring, majestic, awakening species, creatures on planet Earth. We have the capacity. We've got the technology to automate all the mundane jobs. We've got the science to really make sure we rebalance out our ecology and our natural systems. We've got the heart to really design a system that is in the best interests of all. Hope you enjoy the interview with Michael, and thanks for watching. There's a lot of dialogue, conversation happening in the alternative circles around, the banking system, the social sort of, all the systemic dysfunction, and how that's manifesting as social suffering, etc. And there's a lot of talk. I look at many different types of, manifestations of what you're doing. So Ubuntu, there's a resource-based economy, there's regenerative economy. There's quite a few models that's popping up trying to offer a solution.
I think what we're doing is possibly a little bit deeper than many of the other movements. The reason I say this is because we're approaching it from a community level, but also from a political level. Mm-hmm. So it's a bottom-up, top-down approach. And sooner or later, the two strands will meet in the middle. And that's really what I'm doing right now. We're developing community projects in our town, and we're also campaigning for the political party. And there's a very good chance that we're going to win in our municipality next year's municipal elections. Very, very good chance, because we now have members of other the ruling parties that are coming over to Ubuntu Party, and both the ruling and the opposition party representatives that won in this area last year that are now representing Ubuntu Party. So it tells you, like you said, there's an awakening happening, and when these representatives that were campaigning for the ruling party suddenly realize that the ruling party was lying to them, I mean, it makes them even more vocal about what we're doing with Ubuntu. And that's a very exciting position to be in. And it's not just happening here. It's happening in Australia. It's happening in the UK, where Ubuntu Party contested in 2 constituencies. It was tiny, but it was an entry. It was planting the seed of consciousness into that political beast. So that's really what we're doing. Mm-hmm. In the USA is huge. I'm off for a month to the USA now on Tuesday, and it's just exploding. The USA is going to be possibly, when that happens, that's just going to swing the whole thing. But it could be something as small as our little town, our little municipality. If we win the elections here next year, that's all it's going to take, because then it will be the first domino to fall to implement the Ubuntu and the contributionism philosophy. The moment that happens, it's impossible for capitalism and democracy, the way that's been shoved down our throats, to survive anywhere within the proximity of what we're doing. It's just not possible, because what we do is we create abundance for the community. We create virtually, probably 100% support from the community. Once we get in, no one's ever going to vote us out, because it's really about giving to the people what they want and what they deserve. And no political party has ever done that, and you know the reasons why. Mm-hmm. So this is why what we're doing is possibly slightly different, because we're the only movement of consciousness among many movements of consciousness. There are thousands, but we're the only one that's created a political front at the same time.
Philosophically, do you operate under the concept of interconnection or interdependence? It doesn't matter if it's ecologically, quantum physically, spiritually. Is that something that's encoded into your model?
We approach it from every aspect, from the hardcore financial, political, from the socio-economical, from the spiritual, from the scientific. We look at all aspects of society that lie underneath those philosophical banners. Umbrellas as well. You know, we provide very simple suggested solutions. I'm not saying this is hard and fast, but it's a suggestion. And so far, the suggestions are holding the water, and people love it. And this is why there's such a rapid move towards the Ubuntu movement around the world. Mm-hmm. You know, we have members in over 215 countries. We have an indication from 70. Was it 57? I think it was 57 countries towards the end of last year that indicated they want to start Ubuntu political parties. Australia is one of them, obviously. So it just shows you that collective consciousness is rising, and it is an awakening. You know, let's call it. It is, because the people are fast asleep. They've been dumbed down. They've been manipulated, controlled, and when you watch movies like Matrix and what Morpheus has to say about Matrix, it's exactly what's happening. It's exactly, you said it yourself. Some of the people are so dumbed down, so enslaved by the system that they'll fight to protect it. So in essence, what we do, and I'll be doing this afternoon at 5 o'clock. You know, it'll be the first time that I'll meet some of the new candidates and their teams, their troops that they rallied around them. And I'll tell you, the excitement I see from these guys is unbelievable. It's like reborn Christians when they suddenly see the light. They just want to go out there and tell everybody. You know, that's what happens to people when they discover what it is that we're doing. First, they find Ubuntu, they read a bit about us, they think they know what we're doing, and when they really understand what it is we're doing, it's like they become like children, possessed and excited about this, and they just want to go and tell everyone. And that's great. So I don't have to do that anymore. I've done it for 10 freaking years. I'm getting tired. and now there are, probably, I guess, there must be probably more than 1 million people around the world that are going out and telling somebody every day about Ubuntu. Mm-hmm. So it's growing exponentially. But what we essentially are doing is exactly what you said, is we inform and educate the people first before we try and tell them about the solutions. Because you can't try and tell people that we have the solution until they know what the real problem is. Once they really understand the core problem, then it's very easy and they grasp the solutions we present to them. And that's why once they've gone through a presentation or a little discussion with us, they get it. Because we explain to them about the banking system, the origins of money, and very few people in the world actually know the origins of money. Every book you've ever read on the origins of money is wrong. It is a lie. Every single one of them. I've tried to find the truth about the origins of money. I have not found one book that tells us the truth. Some of them come very close, but they're still missing the point. And unfortunately, it's when you realize, when I show you the evidence of the origins of money, where it came from, how it suddenly appeared, who controlled it, you realize it's the same group of individuals and these bloodlines that control the same money supply as they did 6,000 years ago. That is a spectacular bit of information.
So the empire or the power structures that exist today are not just centuries old, they go back millennia.
Thousands of years. And it's these are the royal bloodlines, and the banking families are connected to these royal bloodlines. It's not an accident that the banking families are in control of the money supply worldwide, and every country that has been invaded in the last 20 years has had their own people's bank, and did not have a Rothschild owned central bank. And those countries are Afghanistan, Iraq, Iran, Cuba, North Korea, Syria, Libya. Is it starting to make sense what's going on here?
Mm-hmm.
And then virtually weeks after being invaded, the new Rothschild central bank takes over that country, and it's all history. And none of this information ever makes the mainstream news, because they always create a false flag operation, because it's either the oil or there's a rogue leader. Gaddafi was unstable. Gaddafi was far from unstable. He was probably one of the pillars of Africa. He was a little crazy, yes, but he certainly didn't want to sell out to the Rothschilds, and the Rothschilds didn't like that at all.
Yeah, and it is amazing. Going back to the power structures, at the end of the day, what the truth is and how far it goes back and who the literal controllers are right now, it doesn't matter, because it is what it is right here, right now. And this is what we have to deal with. We don't have to deal with the past. We have to deal with the current. And, I think the biggest issue or the biggest opportunity we have to help awaken the masses, as you say, is via the media. If we could somehow institute policies to take back our media, remove the corporate banking media, which basically programs people to maintain the status quo, which is an absolute grace. And, once you disconnect from it, you realise how duped you were and just go, wow, they really got me, And because it is so convincing in many ways as well, because they've got a lot of truth woven into it. So that truth that's in there, and they really do tap into some of our core emotions and whatnot as well. And they speak about relevant issues, but realistically, not all relevant issues, but many relevant issues, more of the superficial relevance of those issues. But they also, it's what they emit. It's the information they're emitting, which is the most damaging, because we don't get the context, we don't get the holistic truth. And what they're doing is they're also ideologically or philosophically maintaining or advocating this mechanistic, materialist type, view of the universe, which sort of undermines our value systems. It's completely rotted our value systems to the core, and that's why we're seeing so much damage to not just the health of each individual and each community, but also our environment too. So realistically, if we can take back the bloody media, which is or not take it back, but get everybody to enter into alternative media. And that's what I'm seeing. That's partly where I'm in. I'm part of these mindfulness type circles, or these alternative circles, who are disconnecting from the bullshit, the lies, propaganda, the manipulation, the simple brainwashing of the mainstream media, and starting to explore different avenues and emancipating themselves from that crap.
All right. So, I don't know how far down you've scrolled on the Ubuntu Party website, but I'd also recommend just for you to go to the ubuntuparty.org website.
I did, yeah.
Scroll down on the news page and see all the things that I've been sharing with, my petition to the South African government, to the South African Reserve Bank in February after the budget speech. I mean, my letter to the president demanding an explanation why South Africa is registered as a corporation, all this kind of stuff. I mean, we've been active on many levels. So activists in sharing information by going there and doing it, by publishing the papers, by delivering them to the government, to the state attorney, and going out there and doing the legwork, because that actually is part of the education of the great uninformed masses, because they realize they say, what's this guy doing? And when they read the petition, they go, well, I didn't know the Reserve Bank was a private company. What's he on about? And then suddenly they have a big awakening moment. And they go, oh my God, he's telling us the truth. Okay, what's been going on? And that's when they have that aha moment. And so it's through this kind of action that we help to educate and inform people, not just by telling them, but by actually doing these things on the ground as well.
Engaging them.
Engaging and then providing a solution, because it's in providing the solution that people find the comfort that you really know what you're talking about and you've thought it through, and that you're not only highlighting the problems but you're providing a solution. And it's really in there that many people look at Ubuntu as one of the few real alternatives that has I guess you can a whole package deal, if you want to. It's a terrible expression, but it's the only thing that comes to my tired mind right now.
It's not just apocalyptic, but it's also,
absolutely. And not only that, we're showing people how easy it is, and showing that this whole thing of competition that's been shoved down our throats, that's part of the problem connected to the money control system. Because competition is driven by capitalism, is driven by corporate structure, is instituted because of the control systems. Competition creates and keeps control. It is a system based on creating scarcity. The moment you turn that upside down and you start telling people that, why are you competing? Why don't you rather work together? And create abundance by actually cooperating instead of competing. And you'll see how quickly you'll create abundance of unimaginable proportion through cooperation instead of competition. And I use interesting examples, like if 20 of you are stuck on an island, what are you going to do? Are you going to start competing for the best fruit, or are you going to work together so everybody can survive? If you compete, all of you are going to die and one is going to survive. And that's not a solution, because that one person is probably going to die shortly afterwards too. So cooperation is the key here. And then so we teach people how through cooperation we can achieve unimaginable abundance on every level of human endeavor. And it's very quickly that penny drops for people. And then they realize the entire corporate structure is a con. The corporate structure, legal systems have been crossed over with human rights and corporate rights, get more protected than human rights. So all this stuff gets taught to people, and then we provide the solution. And one of the key solutions you'll see on the Ubuntu Party Manifesto, it's probably the one I would like you to read. Read the Ubuntu Party Manifesto, and then also the publicity, the press release for the elections in the UK, and it's the same as we used in South Africa. And there are 7 points that we used. And those are 7 critical points that address the 7 key sectors of our society. First of all is money. We have to change the money supply. So it means we close the central bank. We close the private central bank and replace it with a people's bank. And the moment you replace it with a people's bank, you don't have to go to a private company to borrow money, because we can print our own money very, very successfully. Thank you very much. We don't need some private company to print our money for us. So immediately you create a situation where money is available, tax-free, interest-free, no fees, no levies, no inflation. And the immediate effect of that is that there's 100% employment. Okay, this is what people need to get through their skulls. The moment you shut down the private bank and you create a people's bank or a state bank that operates for the people, by the people, you create 100% employment opportunity. Now, that I'm stating that because that's not for the benefit of corporations. It's benefit for communities and the upliftment of the communities, because that funding will be provided for all community projects for the upliftment of the communities, not for personal wealth and buying 50 Ferraris. It's for creating the community projects that benefit every and any community anywhere in the country, no matter how small it is, which means there's another knock-on effect, an immediate knock-on effect that basically says that means that if you're stuck in the city and you can't get out, now with the People's Bank means you can give up your job, you can move into the smallest little village in the furthest outskirts of Australia, and you will find something to do. Because if you go there with the intention to uplift your community, the money will be available for that project, which means you're creating jobs, opportunities, and everyone will have something to do. This means arts and culture will be funded and supported to the highest degree. Science, invention, technology will be funded to the highest degree. I think I'm making my point here.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's the biggest point I try and emphasize to people is, are you really content? Like, seriously, have a good, long, hard think about your life. Have you found some inner peace? No, because the systems really make it a challenging affair, because we're always worried and stressed about something. It takes a very philosophically evolved or developed person to find some peace in our lives, and that's not taught through our education system. So it's a real simple way to help people connect with, hang on, there is something wrong. I'm not that happy, you know? So it's part, sorry?
No, so you mentioned a key word there. That's not taught in our education system. That's part of the problem, because the education system shouldn't be called the education. It should be called the indoctrination system. The education system doesn't teach anyone anything except prepares living, breathing human beings to become future slaves for corporations. That's all it does.
Yep.
And for the banks. And whether you work for a big company or whether you're an entrepreneur and you're making money for yourselves, it doesn't matter. You're still going to need money to keep this beast and this monster that you're creating alive. And eventually, if you can't sustain this money creation and money supply and the usage of this money that never belongs to you, if you can't sustain that, everything you've created will be taken away from you by the same banks that loaned you that money that never belonged to you in the first place. So our education system is creating a future labor force. That's all it does. It teaches us no skills for life. So when you read the chapter on education in the Ubuntu book, I mean, I've had thousands of emails from people crying with tears and saying, you know, this is the education system we need now. We need to implement it now.
You're absolutely speaking my language. Honestly, Michael, you've wrapped up so much, you know, sort of spirit that this alternative awakening, collective awakening is sort of trying to capture. So that's awesome. And you mentioned something really important that I want to reinforce. And just quickly also, I think this is good footage. I think we might be able to actually use what we're talking about now, because it seems right on point. So you mentioned the value systems of capitalism. So competition. I mean, competition in and of itself. Go play a game of pool with your mate at the pub. That's healthy competition. But the value systems that underpin capitalism, it naturally manifests unhealthy levels of not just competition, but greed, selfishness, ego. A lot of dysfunctional aspects of the ego come out through this system. Whereas it's real simple. The way I see it, it's really bloody simple. I don't want to be born into a society, and I don't want my future generations born into a society where we force them to compete with each other just to get some bloody food and some shelter and some electricity. I'd rather provide all of that everything is forced on everyone. All your basic needs are met, and what you have are the opportunities and the freedom to actually contribute to not just your own life to the best of your ability, but also your family's lives and the community as well. It's well, that simple logic.
I think you've just really outlined the 5-point mantra of Ubuntu and contributionism. No money, no barter, no trade, no value attached to anything, because everything should be equally valuable. So you can't have disparity in value. Like your time is more valuable than mine because you're a doctor and I'm a plumber. None of that exists. because if we live in a community and a society where everything is created for everyone by those who do it, so that others can use it for the benefit of the whole community, which means their own benefit as well, we don't need to attach value to anything because everything is available to everyone all the time. And there needs to be no hoarding. The side effects of this is a very interesting long list of no hoarding, no greed, no gluttony, no envy, none of those, because you've got everything you need whenever you need it, the way you need it and the way you want it.
And all those things are just self-abuse anyway. Any resentment, any jealousy, any envy, any fighting. It's like almost worshipped in our society when essentially it's just self-abuse. It's self-harm. Work it out.
And point number 5 is a community society where everybody contributes, as you said, their God-given talents or their acquired skills and passions for the greater benefit of everyone in the community. So whether you're a scientist or a farmer or a painter or a teacher or whatever it is you want to do that you're passionate about, you'll be free to do that and share your gifts and talents with your community. And for that, you will get the highest respect from your community, and ultimately that's what we want. We want to be recognized for what we are good at and what we do. And it's the lack of recognition in capitalism and this thing called democracy that is just an evil distortion of our reality.
Well, it's not even democracy anyway.
Well, democracy is just a bullying tactic. Democracy is a part of the deception, and people need to still internalize it. Democracy is a simple bullying tactic. 51 of us, 49 of you, it'll be our way or the highway, and that's just wrong. So what I teach people about the Ubuntu philosophy is actually a minority-based philosophy, minority rule systems, because there are many more. There's an infinite number of minority groups, and there are only a few majority groups. And you have to take care of all your minority groups to have a happy society. And if you live in a community where everybody looks after everyone else, all the minority groups, whether it's the guys looking after the butterflies or the guys making sure the beehives or whatever, every minority group will be looked after to the best of its ability. Mm-hmm. And that's what creates content in your community. And nobody feels any need to steal or harm, because everyone is just wrapped up and creating, because ultimately creating is the number one human trait. And human nature is to create, is not to be lazy. It's not to be greedy. It's not to steal. It's not to sit on your ass. It's to be creative and to give expression to your born talents that you're born with. And it is those born talents that are beaten out of us in this education system.
Yep, be robotic, be a productive economic citizen.
So part of the process of moving into this utopian world and paradise on earth from community to community is a very active PR exercise. So you keep showing people the progress. You're showing with huge amounts of PR in the alternative media, videos, etc., that what you're doing is just, this is what everyone has been looking for. This is what everybody wants. So that no matter what the mainstream media tries to paint you as, nobody's going to believe it anymore. They're going to start seeing the lies, and they're not going to believe it. So this is critical because, like I said, once one town goes, it's going to be the first domino to fall, because it's impossible for a capitalist model in our neighboring towns to exist within proximity of a contributionism town. It's not possible, because contributionism devours capitalism wherever it finds it. It just destroys it. It replaces it with abundance, because it's very simple philosophy of cooperation. And all you need to do is just think, if you've got a little village of 1,000 people, and those 1,000 people each contributed 3 hours a week towards one of the community projects, you got 3,000 hours a week that people contribute towards their own community. No corporation can afford 3,000 hours a week. Especially a company in your town can't afford 3,000 hours a week. So you've just outperformed and outclassed any company that's going to try and muscle in on your community and try and take over. It's not going to work. In fact, you've done the opposite. You and I are creating produce, goods, and services virtually for free, not for free, but virtually for free, because you're doing it collectively, everybody, and which means that everyone has access to all this for free, or virtually for free. And you can then make it available to all your neighboring communities for a fraction of the price that they can get it from their supermarkets and their warehouses, because you're creating it for virtually for free. So you can mark it up whatever you want to and undercut anyone from a corporate structure that tries to compete against you. No corporation will be able to compete against your produce from your village, because you're doing it as a community collective effort. And you can...
Sorry, given we wouldn't have survived and thrived to the point we have, you know, at our current stage of evolution of humanity, we wouldn't have survived and thrived without cooperation and coming together. It really has been, it's an innate part of who we are, is to, you know, sort of collectivise with our community and actually work together to achieve our goals. Over the last sort of 1,000 or 2,000 years, it sort of seems to have gone in the opposite direction. We're going away from what is a perfectly natural aspect of being human. So, you know, you're speaking to not just what makes sense in terms of the rational, you know, give everybody the abundance, but also what is, what's intuitive, what's instinctual, the fact that we need to connect with each other.
And this is why we call it the Ubuntu Party, because although Ubuntu is an African word, all native people of the world have their own version of Ubuntu. No, the Aboriginal people or the original people of Australia have their own form of it. The Native Americans have, Canadians, and so forth. Everyone has their own version of Ubuntu, and it is unity within community. The community looking after the interests of everyone in the community, and that means looking after the whole community and not just individuals. Looking after themselves. And this is why, just one thing you said earlier, I need to just make sure that whoever watches this or whatever you do with this gets this. We're not proposing self-sustaining communities. Not at all. This is not about self-sustaining communities. This is about creating communities of abundance. Big difference. Self-sustaining community is just a bigger version of me. Now it's, instead of me, I'm looking after me. Now it's us. We're looking after us, and if you don't belong to our community, screw you. Sorry, you're outside the wall. You can be starving, and we've got everything we need, but we're not going to help you because we're looking after ourselves. So our self-sustaining communities have actually been a huge problem, and that's why they've been allowed to thrive and to continue, because they have not really affected the rest of the world. But an Ubuntu community, a contributionism community, is a whole different kettle of fish.
Well, it sounds like you're not just trying to make change from, you know, the individual, the perspective of, you know, the people on the ground, like you said, the bottom, but actually enter into the system itself to revolutionise the system from within. And that's, I think, a bit of a difference to some of these other sort of movements who are trying to build this abundance for humanity. They're trying to do it outside of the system, as you're trying to do it within it.
Yeah, I haven't really thought of it like that. I just know that every other group or organization or that I've come across, or people that have emailed us, I find a weak spot there almost immediately when I look at what they're doing. And I don't want to sound arrogant when I say it. It's just because I've worked on this for a long time, and I'm not doing it for me. I'm doing it for the community. And realizing what it is that's going to, I don't know, I guess I have no idea, but somehow it seems to work. Somehow I've tapped into this channel of information that is allowing me to translate into words and hopefully action as well, which we've done already on some levels. This universal formula that seems to provide abundance on every level.
All right, so you used a really good key word then, action. How do people get involved?
How do people get involved? The most important thing is you need to internalize this, really get to understand what this is all about. We're building communities of abundance where people contribute a little bit of time to create this unimaginable abundance. And then the rest of the time they can pursue their passion, their love, which will also be supported, because whatever it is you're doing may become a community project, which means you'll be supported by all the other people in your community. Right, so you can see how this is a completely integrated supportive structure where there's no one outside of the community. No one works alone. Everyone, you can work alone, but because of this unity, and this is what I always claim, to try and explain to people, only out of unity can you have infinite diversity. So within your unified community, you can have an infinite number of people doing diverse things, but they're doing it for the greater benefit of the whole community. So internalize this information, learn how what we want to do and how we want to implement the community projects that are integrated. Each one is integrated to the other community project that benefit everyone, that create abundance, and start sharing this information with everyone you know. Join the Ubuntu movement on our website, so you're on the database. Create a meetup group in your area. Start discussing this. Start some community projects that you think you can manage, but only do it if you think you can manage it, because from our own experience, it's not easy to run community projects. And make sure that you spread the message. I think that's the most important thing. If everybody becomes a messenger of this philosophy, and we reach a critical mass, come the next elections, we'll win the elections. So we build it up from the ground up, from a philosophical base from among the people, and then we'll finish it off and close it at the top from a political front. And once you win the political race, and you've won the hearts and minds of the people on the ground, there's no turning back.
Excellent. So social media as well, you're on Facebook, Twitter, those sorts of things. People can have a look at what you guys do that way.
Yeah, I try and put out as much as I can. Everything we do, we put out on either Facebook, but on our websites as well. And it's ubuntuparty.org.za and also ubuntuplanet.org. Ubuntu Planet is to serve as a portal for all the countries around the world to run their websites from that portal, and all the Facebook pages to converge at the Ubuntu Planet website, ubuntuplanet.org, so that we're setting up as a portal to keep a strong, cohesive family that grows and that doesn't become too many splinter groups that start to promote all kinds of other agendas, which we've already seen. People try to use the Ubuntu logo and the Ubuntu name to promote their own agenda and sell products and all that kind of stuff. So we just need to guard against that, because by opening ourselves up to the world, we also open ourselves to infiltration. And we just got to be aware of that.
You're a passionate man, mate. You know, like you seem to have really captured what it means to be human at the start of the 21st century. That's so important. Like, it's not just about how we move forward practically, socially, but it's also how we, as you said, internalize it or undertake that philosophical shift and find a new value system where we connect everybody. So fantastic, man. I'm pretty sure what you've just been able to present to the audience will really resonate with them. So appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Will. One final thing I want to say is that, if you think that this is some sort of a dictatorship system, or, who's going to run it and manage it, it's often a question. What this is a self-correcting system, because whatever problem the community encounters, it will be solved for the best outcome of the whole community. So that's why I've been calling it a self-correcting system. And so far in 10 years, no problem or curveball that's been thrown at it has collapsed it. In fact, it makes it stronger every time, because it makes us think about how we're going to solve that problem when we get into a situation of being in control of our own destiny, of our own legal system, of our own decisions in our own community, as opposed to being dictated to by a government or a high authority and municipality as to what we can and cannot do. So this is how we solve our problems really quickly and eloquently, and on a day-to-day, hour-by-hour basis. No problem will be unsolved. And this is why it's so simple and so eloquent.
Well, there's no doubt we need a decentralization of power on so many different levels. So that's definitely an important role in this. All right, thanks, Mike. Is it Mick, Mike, Michael? What do you prefer?
Michael, yeah.
Yeah, not a problem.
Thanks,
Well,
Will.
fantastic. Appreciate your time.